It is Wednesday, February 19, 2025, and President Trump has just excoriated Ukraine's president. Fireworks erupting as Volodymyr Zelensky tries to openly take on Donald Trump, re-earthing these debunked Russian collusion claims that Trump being a Russian asset. Wait till you see this big mistake on Zelensky's part. Also, mega-cap tech companies reportedly preparing to move their manufacturing hubs back to the United States, move them out of China and back to the good old US of A. This is huge news, huge economic news. Should this happen, we are talking an economic boon, the likes of which we've never seen. We're going to show you, and more stories as well from around the country, including an update on our hopefully new FBI director, Kash Patel, and more. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. Fireworks erupting last night and this morning between President Trump and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky after Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his team left Ukraine out of the peace talks, meeting with the Russian delegation Monday, purposely not inviting Zelensky to the meeting. Why? Why did they choose to do that? Because Zelensky has been trying to sabotage the peace process, negotiating in bad faith for weeks, actively trying to sabotage peace, and Trump learned about it. He now knows about it, and all hell just broke loose. Realize there have been back-channel talks with Zelensky for months. Trump's team had negotiated all of this. Their plan with the Ukrainians, telling Zelensky how it is, what the plan is to end this war. Apparently, Zelensky agreed. Or Trump thought he had, even agreed to give the U.S. first rights access to $500 billion in Ukrainian rare earth minerals. That was weeks ago from what I understand. Agreeing to this, agreeing to follow Trump's lead, and agreeing to the rare earth part of the deal as well. Watch.
I want to have our money secured because we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars. And, you know, they may make a deal, they may not make a deal, they may be Russian someday, or they may not be Russian someday, but we're going to have all this money in there. And I say, I want it back. And I told them that I want the equivalent, like $500 billion worth of rare earth. And they've essentially agreed to do that. So at least we don't feel stupid. Otherwise, we're stupid. I said to them, we have to get something. We can't continue to pay this money.
Well, Trump found out Zelensky has been playing him, appeasing him while working behind his back to kill the peace plan, meeting with European leaders in Munich last week and attempting to cut him out, cut the Americans out, trying to cut side deals with these sympathetic European countries, apparently floating a deal to put European soldiers in Ukraine in exchange for these rare earth minerals, all being discussed without the Americans present, trying to cut Trump out and sabotage his peace plan with Russia. Realize those rare earth minerals he's now waving around like a magic wand to the Europeans. He already used them to cut a deal with Trump. That is not how business is done, and Trump's not standing for it. Here he was last night letting Zelensky know, you just screwed up. And bigly, watch.
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, or essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating, and where a country has been blown to smithereens. You got most of the cities are laying on their sides. The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition site. The whole, I mean, so many of the cities. I mean, they haven't done it in Kiev because I guess they don't want to shoot too many rockets in there. They've done it 20%, but they haven't done it 100%. If they wanted to do it 100%, it would probably happen very quickly. But you have cities that are absolutely decimated. And yeah, I would say that, you know, when they want a seat at the table, you could say the people have to, wouldn't the people of Ukraine have to say, like, you know, it's been a long time since we've had an election. That's not a Russia thing. That's something coming from me and coming from many other countries also.
That was last night. Well, this morning, early morning, Zelensky makes the mistake of doubling down, re-earthing the long-debunked Russiagate hoax, telling reporters that Trump lives in a disinformation bubble, specifically referencing Trump's consistent statement that the war never would have started. Zelensky saying President Trump needs more truth, needs to be educated, saying, unfortunately, President Trump, I have great respect for him as a leader of a nation that I respect. The American people who always support us, unfortunately, their president lives in this disinformation space, and he appears to be getting his information from Russia. What? This guy really has no clue what he's doing. Does he not realize he's the only walking around still because of U.S. protection? Trump taking to Truth Social this morning and excoriating Ukraine's president, writing, think of it, a modestly successful comedian, Volodymyr Zelensky, talked to the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. The U.S. spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money's guaranteed, while the U.S. will get nothing back. Why didn't Sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization? In that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us. We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. He refuses to have elections. He's very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle, a dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried, Europe's failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions have unnecessarily died, and so it continues. We haven't seen Trump this angry since his first term. He is angry. He is not happy with Zelensky. Even on the campaign trail, he would insult Zelensky, but also compliment him at the same time, dubbing Zelensky the world's greatest salesman. That's over, which means Zelensky's in trouble. He's painted himself into a corner, making an awful mistake. His time appears to be just about up. In another story, Kash Patel has advanced out of committee yesterday, clearing a major hurdle to become our new FBI director. This is big news. We've been waiting for weeks for this. The rhinos in the Senate kept pushing this vote. It was supposed to be held 2 weeks ago, continuing to delay the vote. Well, it has happened. The Senate voted yesterday along party lines, 48 yes votes to 45 no votes. This means there will be a full Senate confirmation vote for Kash tomorrow on Thursday, which he's expected to be confirmed as our new FBI director. And it couldn't come at a better time. The swamp is in the process of being drained. Trump and Doge have been firing all of these people, cutting off the money supply, which means they are on the ropes. Now is the time to investigate criminally all the corruption Doge has been uncovering. That's exactly what Kash will do, along with AG Pam Bondi. In another story, Donald Trump drops major bombshell at his press conference last night that Apple, the world's largest company, is moving its manufacturing hub back to the United States. If this is true, if this actually happens, it would be huge economic news. Apple and the majority of these mega cap tech companies manufacture their products where? In China. They've manufactured in China for decades because it's cheap, because the post-World War II trade policies that permitted countries like China to tariff the U.S. but not allow the U.S. to tariff them back, those days are over, done.
Very big, momentous decisions are being made by companies all around the world, the biggest, and they want to come back into the U.S.
And before we show what Trump said last night, what this means, what this could mean going forward, here's a quick message from our friends over at Lear Capital. Markets are at all-time highs. The economy seems unstoppable. Euphoria has officially set in as Trump strives to make America great again. Don't get me wrong. I have high hopes for Trump and the United States, but he has a huge job ahead. The last administration left us a legacy of unbelievable inflation and debt so big that interest alone on our debt is $1 trillion a year. Think about that. It's going to take a lot of digging to get us out of this hole. While inflation has destroyed purchasing power, gold has been my safety net. I've personally experienced the benefits of owning gold. That's why I've partnered with Lear Capital. They specialize in helping people like me and you protect and grow our hard-earned savings and retirement accounts with gold. Did you know during Trump's last presidency, gold rose 65% to a record high? If it happens again, that puts gold at $4,200 an ounce in Trump's next term. I recommend you call Lear today at 800-885-2175 or go to learrj.com for your free gold investor kit and special report. $4,200 gold could be ahead. Lear is an education-first company. There's no pressure to buy, just free information to see if gold is right for you. Lear has 27 years experience, thousands of five-star reviews, $3 billion in trusted transactions, and is the only company with a 24-hour risk-free purchase guarantee. So you don't pay unless you're 100% satisfied. That's why I trust Lear, and you can too. So call 800-885-2175 or go to learrj.com. Ask how you can also get up to $15,000 in bonus gold with a qualifying purchase. Call 800-885-2175 or go to learrj.com. You'll be glad you did. With Trump announcing his reciprocal tariffs last week, meaning any country that tariffs the U.S., we are now imposing the same tariff back. No more, no less. These reciprocal tariffs go into effect in a few days, in the coming days. We've been saying for weeks, everything is changing. Economically speaking, everything's changing. Here's why. Watch Trump explain.
I do want to say while I'm up here, I've been contacted by some of the biggest companies in the world. And because of what we're doing economically and through tariffs and taxes and incentives, they want to come back into the United States. And we'll be announcing various very large companies, the biggest actually. And they'll be coming back, having to do with chips and having to do also with cars and lots of other things. We're going to be announcing some very, very big, momentous decisions are being made by companies all around the world, the biggest, and they want to come back into the U.S. Car plants are being canceled in other locations now because they want to build them here. And you read about a couple, not that I want to mention names or anything, but you read about a couple of big ones in Mexico just got canceled because they're going to be building them in the United States. And that's very simply because of what we're doing with respect to taxes, tariffs, and incentives. And I think it's a very important thing. And you'll be seeing this over the next, probably over the next 2 years, to be honest. But you're going to see a lot of it over the next couple of weeks. A lot of big ones are going to be announcing. And so while we're here, I guess we can take a couple of quick questions. Go ahead, please. Please.
Mr. President, have you decided specifically what the auto tariff rate should be?
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
What about semiconductors and pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plant or factory here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance. Yes, thank you.
The EU, Andrea Shalal, the EU representative is going to be here in Washington tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with Hassett and Greer and Letnick. What can the EU do to sort of avoid the reciprocal tariffs that you've talked about? And, you know, you've talked a lot about the VAT. Do you expect them to reduce that?
Well, they did already, as I understand it, reduce their car tariff all the way down to what we have. And a lot of that will take place, and I think some won't do it and some will do it. But the EU had a 10% tax on cars, and now they have a 2.5% tax, which is the exact same as us. So already we've saved a tremendous amount. That would be great. If everybody would do that, then we'd all be on the same playing field. Because essentially what we're doing with the tariffs is, you know, they charge us, we charge them, same amount. And it's called reciprocal, actually. And whatever they charge us, we're charging them. And so the EU is, you know, I appreciate that they did this, but, you know, the EU has been very unfair to us. We have a deficit of $350 billion. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They don't take almost anything. They take very little. And we're going to have to straighten that out. And we will. I have no doubt about it.
And we're getting a much better understanding, a much better view of what his larger economic and trade policy, what his end goal is here to really genuinely rebuild America's manufacturing base. And it is happening. If these mega cap companies move their manufacturing hubs back to the US from China, we would see an economic boon this country hasn't seen in a century, like we've never seen before. We are talking huge economic growth, not this measly 2, 3, 4% like we've been so accustomed to. This is why it's important to prepare. Be prepared for what's coming. There's no way to know what's going to happen in the short term. We've never seen anything like this before. The global economy is being completely realigned. We know in the long term, yes, absolutely the correct thing to do to fix these unfair trade policies. But in the short term, it's unpredictable. We don't know what could happen in the short term. If you want more info about this, I'd recommend watching my interview with Kevin Demerit, the founder of Lear Capital. We went over what he believes is coming in the short and in the midterm once these tariffs go into effect. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in watching that. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.